Hello and welcome to a podcast about something. Today we are talking about short-lived TV shows. I've got Char and Kelly from Good Enough to Air. They're joining me from the Great White North. How you guys doing?
Very good. You know, it's very cold here at summertime. It's a rough 32 degrees Celsius right now.
Yes, I'm definitely not sweating up here at all.
It was 102 in Florida today, so
Jesus.
Wow.
I don't know. I might prefer
I don't know what that is in
32.
Celsius. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We'll convert all of our colloquialisms to American. We'll try our best.
Oh yeah, that might be rough. The 32 Celsius is a little warmer than I was initially imagining.
Yeah. Yes, so our podcast, Good Enough to Air, is exactly what we are talking about in this episode.
Which is great for us.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else.
Our tagline is shows that were canceled before their time, which most of the time applies, but a lot of the time, TV shows should have been canceled. So it's kind of just a nicety towards those shows.
I mean, I like it because it's either trash garbage that we get to talk about or gold mines, diamonds in the rough.
Mm-hmm.
That
shows that nobody ever heard about.
Yeah, like Firefly.
And then we.
So I'm gonna go ahead up front and say I've never seen Firefly.
What?
Jeez. I missed it when it was on, and then I just never went back.
Should have gave you homework for this episode, Ben. It's on Netflix. It's pretty easy to watch now.
It is on Netflix. I didn't know that. I might have to check it out once I get caught up on all the regular shows I try to watch.
Mm-hmm. But so we get to be TV hipsters because we learn about a bunch of shows that only lasted for a season or two and were actually pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love the show. I listen all the time. I scroll through your list of episodes trying to find ones that I've actually seen, and that's harder than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But I like that because then I get to find, like you said, those diamonds in the rough that not everybody knows about, and were still good for their one or two seasons and just lost traction for whatever reason.
Yeah. We actually have a Google Doc of all the TV shows that we found that apply for our show's loose rules, and we have maybe about 500 shows that we could potentially watch for the podcast. So
wow,
we should be able to last for a
content.
while.
Yeah,
exactly. We should also note that this isn't the full cast of Good Enough to Air.
Yeah, Mike is dead, unfortunately.
Yeah, we killed Mike.
Whew, that's rough.
He was like, well, I want to guest star, and then we're like, yeah, but we killed you, so...
Sorry.
If you're a police officer in Canada, you might want to just turn this off now.
Well, that's the good thing, is since you're in America, it's out of their jurisdiction, so...
That's true.
Technically, murder's legal as long as you tell someone in a different country, right?
That's not how that works at all, my friend.
And I think we have a few listeners in Canada, so...
Damn it.
I don't know if they're cops, but there's a chance that they might be.
Do you know their name and location for reasons?
No, the podcast statistics don't get that in depth for whatever reason. I don't know why they don't give me my listener's name and most last known address. That would be really good information.
No favorite drink.
Fears.
Yeah.
Weaknesses. Just for the record, we don't condone murder on Good Enough to Air.
No. Mike has gone on very important business things.
Yeah, he's way cooler than we are.
Here. Yeah.
I mean, no, it's very cool to be here.
Oh yeah, thanks.
Oh boy, Kelly, you're digging a hole.
And that's the end of the show now. All right. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us on.
All right, so I assume everybody can find you guys on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are available.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, anything like that?
And Instagram.
Oh, wow.
It's a new visual medium for us.
Our social handle is Good to Air because I'm an idiot.
That happened before I joined, and Kelly and Mike are dumb.
Yeah, I mean, Ghetto would have been a more plausible handle, but no, whatever. So Good to Air, or just type in Good Enough to Air into the Google bar and you'll find us.
That's how I found you on Twitter. You can follow a podcast about something on Twitter. It's at APA something, and you can always send me emails, a podcast about something at gmail.com. I have no Instagram or Facebook presence because I hate them.
Yeah, that's fair.
fair.
They're like necessary evils, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to stay away.
It's probably healthier.
All right, so like we said at the top, we're going to talk a lot about short-lived TV shows, but let's talk first about what you think of TV right now. What's good, what's bad, what are your favorite shows to watch? And this can be network TV, cable TV, Netflix, wherever you like to watch.
Because I haven't had cable for maybe like 10 years now.
Wow.
Ever since Netflix and the extremely legal means of obtaining television shows on the internet.
I like to call it legal adjacent.
Yeah, legal adjacent. I haven't had cable in quite a while, so my knowledge of like modern day shows, and I think this applies with Char as well, is like what showed up on Netflix today, or like what's a Netflix original, or let's watch the latest episode of Big Brother.
Yeah, exactly. So I grew up with in the one house in Montreal, Canada. Woo!
Yeah,
I've been there.
East side. I grew up with my parents, lived in the same house my entire life, and then I moved to Vancouver 3 years ago. So that was when I lost cable TV, once I moved in with Kelly.
I'm sorry.
Um,
the hole's there in the wall if you want to get it.
No, I do like, as Kelly said, we just watched like a lot of Netflix shows. It's interesting though, because I wonder how many people don't have cable TV anymore. It's still surviving, but I think the shift is happening at a steeper and steeper rate now.
Yeah, they definitely keep raising my subscription fees, so that means less and less people are. I keep cable mostly for live sports.
Okay.
I don't like getting the legal adjacent means. I watch probably 3 network TV shows, and those, I could do without, and then I have probably 4 cable dramas that I'll watch.
Okay.
And then just Game of Thrones on HBO, really.
Yeah, that's fair. We just watched, what was the one that we watched recently? Nailed It?
Oh, on Netflix. Yeah.
What is that about?
It's a cooking show that's almost like there was another more professional cooking show being filmed, and in the background somebody was just goofing around and making a like funnier one. It's basically like every contestant has to try to recreate this like elaborate baked cake or something like that, while not having the skill to do it, and it always ends up being hilarious.
And they have a very short time limit, so you know that hell will ensue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
good. It's like very irreverent, almost like YouTube style comedy, which I really appreciate as a millennial.
And it has the host of the show is from Party Over Here, which is a show that we watched on Good Enough to Air. Yeah. So that was cool.
She's like, I think she's an SNL as well. She's like the new young cast that does all the digital shorts and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you watch SNL.
Nah, not for 8 years probably.
Yeah.
Not regularly. I'll
when I had cable.
Yeah.
When they come across my feed on YouTube, I'll watch some of the sketches, but that's about it.
We can't do that in Canada because SNL doesn't allow clips in Canada for some reason.
There's this thing you can subscribe to. It's called a VPN, and you can basically lie about where you are.
It's pretty legally adjacent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wrote down notes. I was like, it's really cool seeing that kind of stuff on Netflix because like that would never get approved on network TV.
Yeah.
And like, what was the other one? Like, The End of the Fucking World. Like, just the name of alone, they probably wouldn't have been able to get on anything other than like
HBO.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and they tried it with Shit My Dad Says on CBS. That was probably 8-10 years ago now, and it didn't have any legs, and it was probably mostly because of that reason. Like, you can't have a vulgar title that you can't even say.
Yeah.
I mean, that show was also hot garbage.
Because we also watched that on Good Enough
Have you
to
seen
Air.
any other CBS sitcoms?
Wasn't 2.5 Men CBS?
Yeah? Did you like 2.5 Men?
Also kind of hot garbage.
I think that was his point.
That was my point.
See, that's the reason why I don't have cable, is because like 90% of the networks are terrible, and then also you have to watch commercials, and
Yeah.
who has time for that?
My biggest issue with network TV is the 22 episode season. So you've got an hour-long drama that's 22 episodes, and it's just a mess. Like the middle 10 episodes are always just terrible nothing, and then you have like 5 good ones in the beginning and 5 good ones at the end, and just nothing in the middle.
Yeah,
So like
exactly.
Netflix and HBO, they do a good job with a 10 to 13 episode season, which is really the sweet spot.
I often wonder what the development of that is, though, because like you have to, for the most part, you have to make those episodes before you even release, because people are just used to being able to binge shows now. And like most of the Love, Char watched that, and it was
on Netflix. That was good.
The season just came out. It was like it was every episode.
And then I watched it in 2 days.
They're trying to do some things with like weekly episodes. Joel McHale has a weekly show on Netflix now that only releases. It's kind of like The Soup, and then it releases weekly. Right. And I think they have some like cooking shows and stuff that only come out once a week.
Yeah, The 100 is released on Netflix as well once a week.
Is that the?
Yeah, but that's a CW show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
that's weird.
I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine a lot as well, and that I think came out as they were also coming out on TV.
Oh. Yeah, so that's maybe they're trying a new thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's like a couple weeks behind or something, and then it comes. That's interesting.
It's definitely the preferred way of watching it. Like, I don't know, a lot of my friends don't really watch TV that much, so I don't have that like stigma of like showing up at school and talking about the latest episode or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
it doesn't really exist anymore, I don't think.
Yeah.
Other than Game of Thrones, there's not like anything of, did you watch it this week?
Yeah, I think Game of Thrones is literally like one of the only examples that still exists that way.
Or like The Walking Dead, but less so the last few seasons.
Yeah, I mean that show has become.
Kelly. I really like it still.
Really?
I've never watched it. I don't do zombies.
Oh, it's so good to me. I've read the comics. I love the comics, so I really follow the show.
It's become an ironic title, but the show itself is
because the show is actually Walking Dead.
There was literally an episode that didn't have zombies in it. Who wants to watch that?
It's world building and character development, Kelly.
You don't need to build a world for a zombie show. It's zombies.
It'd be like if Game of Thrones was just like a picture of an old guy writing for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we spend time in the library, but not the cool part of the library, just the back part where you read your books. And then Sam is like, man, I love this book. Watch me quietly read it.
That might be better than the vomit and shit montage we got last season, though, of Sam.
Oh. I haven't actually watched the latest season.
Oh, spoilers.
It's gonna be bad.
Because
There's a vomit and shit montage. Watch out.
Ooh, I'm excited. I ordered, because we always watch the Steelbooks.
Okay.
And so I ordered season 6 again.
Because they come with magnets. That's the main reason we buy them. Because now our fridge is covered in very fancy Game of Thrones magnets.
I was like, let's watch the next season, but it was season 6 again.
Which we already saw and already had the magnet of.
So, long story short, I don't know if you were hoping that you had TV experts on your podcast today, but we're kind of incompetent when it comes to
this is even better.
Everything. When it comes to everything.
The fact that you can't even order the right season of Game of Thrones, I think it's just going to make it better. You're not missing too much in season 7.
Okay, that's good. I know that Daenerys apparently has teleportation powers.
Everybody in the show has teleportation powers. They just decided, like, this world is not huge, actually. Everything's just the size of, like, a small town in Kansas. Kansas is in the middle of the United States for you listeners in Canada.
Thanks, because I didn't know. It's where Dorothy hits her head and then has a coma dream.
It's like I want to say Manitoba, the one that everyone forgets about. No. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are provinces between.
I forget about, like, 3 of the 6, so.
So much easier, though.
I got Quebec, Ottawa, or Ontario, and Newfoundland, right?
We're in British Columbia.
British Columbia, yeah.
There's also the
Alberta,
Yukon and stuff like that.
The territories, yeah.
Welcome to a podcast about Canadian geography.
Yes. Listeners are on the edge of their seats right now, I'm sure.
When am I gonna get to Newfoundland? Come on.
You already said that.
I said Newfoundland. That was one of my 3.
Oh, listening's also not as strong as...
Kelly likes to only think about himself sometimes.
That's right, me.
All right. If you want to know more about Canada, hit either show on Twitter. We'll learn you something new about Canada.
Yeah.
I've been to Montreal 4 times, so I
There we
speak
go,
very
there.
little French.
C'est parfait, monsieur.
Something, mister.
There you go.
Took 4 years of French in high school, and I retained very little of it.
Amen.
I lived just south of the Montreal border in upstate New York, so it was like I kind of had to take French, so when we would travel up there, somebody kind of knew how to get directions. It did.
Yeah, Canada just makes you learn it because it's technically our other language.
Yeah.
Even though everyone on the East Coast just doesn't care about it. Wait, West Coast.
West Coast, yeah.
Am I just really... Never mind.
Reading aloud. It's really hard. You're not even reading yet, but that's okay.
I was trying to do never eat soggy wheat in my head as I was talking that sentence.
Yeah, but you're on the West Coast. You should know which one's the West Coast, or not the West Coast,
No.
but the West Side.
West Coast, best coast.
Woo.
Whoa.
I don't
All
like sides.
So let's
TV shows.
move on past Canadian geography, and go into. We'll do our top 3 shows. I'll have 3, and then you guys have 3. You each had 1, I think.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
were canceled after 3 seasons or less. I'll let one of you go first.
Ooh. Okay, I'll go first. So I picked Smash. Do either of you know anything about
No.
Smash?
You
I thought you
chose
said
one that
MASH,
wasn't
and
even-
I was going to say MASH was much more than 1 season.
That was like 500 seasons.
Yeah, no, Smash. Okay, so it's a drama TV show, but it's also a jukebox musical, which is where songs from various different artists get thrown together to make a new story. And so basically the premise is that it's about the creation of a brand new musical called Bombshell, which is about Marilyn Monroe. And
Okay.
it follows the entire creative process from the audition all the way to rehearsals and then it eventually getting on stage. And the reason I picked it was because it was about musicals. So obviously I'm a musical theater performer, so I really
Oh,
loved
there we
it.
go.
I actually thought that the production quality was really high.
That would be hard with a musical TV show, I would think.
Yeah, but it was so good. The actors were all great, and a lot of them were actually Broadway stars, which is something that I really love.
Was Sarah
And
Foster in it?
no,
Oh.
unfortunately not.
That's
Unless
the-
maybe she guest starred and I forget. They only had 2 seasons, which is really too bad. But there was Christian Boyle, who plays what did he recently do? He was Shakespeare in the musical Something Rotten. That
Okay,
just
yep.
came out like 2 years ago. Yeah. And then also someone you might know is Catherine McPhee, who was on American Idol like 2 years ago.
Oh,
2 years
yeah, I
ago?
think I do remember her.
I have
season.
never once watched an episode of American Idol.
Oh,
But
really?
you're American.
That's your idol.
They are not my idols.
Isn't that where you get your idols?
They keep trying to push them onto us, and I just never took it.
And then, yeah, so it has really good character building, really good plot. I love how they, like, balance the drama of, like, creating something new for art, but then also the drama that happens without question backstage.
Was it like kind of like Glee, or is it?
Sort of, except professional. So
Oh.
Glee is about, like, high schoolers that can't do shit in Glee Club, and then they eventually start to get good, whereas
Okay.
this is, like, they're already...
Shots fired at Glee.
Sorry. I love Glee. Glee's also good. Well, it's okay. It got bad. It should have stopped many years ago.
So did you actually watch this like as it was airing?
Yeah, I watched it as it was coming out. And it got canceled after 2 seasons, which is really too bad.
You know why it got canceled?
I didn't know. I had to Google it. And apparently it was because of significant rating drops over the course of the series. So it started out really high in the pilot episode of season 1, and it got nominated for a bunch of Emmys, and actually won one for, I think it was best choreography.
Ooh.
But then when you look at the numbers, the average viewers from season 1 was 9 million per episode, and then it dropped to 2.7 million in season 2.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's a pretty big drop.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they just cut it off.
That's
after
around
that.
the killing number.
Yeah.
I guess so. Where did you think the show was going if it was to keep going?
Yeah. Okay. So this part is actually what's really cool, and one of the main reasons I also chose this show was that even though the TV show got canceled, they're making a real Broadway musical of Bombshell, the show that they made in the
really?
TV show.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's crazy meta.
I know. It's still in development. It was announced that they were doing it in 2015, and some of the songs were featured in the TV show. So I'm assuming that those will be on the Broadway performance, but there'll be more content as well.
Did they actually do original songs, or was it all?
Yeah, so half of the songs were original of the Bombshell show, and then the other half were just like featured pop tunes or rock songs or whatever.
Huh. How have we never done this show on Geta? That's like...
Because it has more than one season, which usually we only do.
That never matters.
Coming next week, Smash on Good Enough to Air.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess the last thing I'll say is that the show was in the process of branching off from just focusing on Bombshell, and it had the characters go into multiple musical productions, and I really wanted to see the show explore the lives of the characters as they like pursued their goals and stuff, because they were all really strong and they had like such great backstories and like goals for each of them, and like I really care about every single person on the show, and the drama was so great, but then unfortunately the viewership just dropped.
Huh.
I guess it was too niche because it was musicals.
I mean, we could just watch that for realsies, because I have no connection to any of the characters on Glee.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate a TV show that has songs in it.
So there you go. Let's watch it. All right, Calvin, what's your show?
My first show was How to Make It in America from HBO.
I don't think I know it. Do you know
It
it?
was
Oh.
2010, 2011. It ran 2 seasons. It starred Brian Greenberg and Victor Rusk, which if you look up Victor Rusk, you'll know him from other things, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. He's a Hispanic guy. But the real, the good part of it was the supporting cast. It had Luis Guzman, Lake Bell, Kid Cudi was in it, and Eddie K. Thomas. And
Nice.
they were all like batting 1,000 in every scene they were in. They were just great every time. It follows the lives of Ben and Cam as they try to succeed in the New York City fashion scene. So I kind of said it's like a less douchey version of Entourage.
Oh, that's a big selling point.
I was about to say, it's the main complaint that Kelly makes about Entourage.
Right.
That everyone's a huge douche.
So these guys weren't. They had to deal with real problems, like real girl problems, money issues, because they were both poor and were just trying to make money off their fashion line, and they were just trying to do something ambitious like selling. They were trying to basically create a fashion line from scratch, and it had some of the celebrity cameos in it, like Entourage did. But again, the celebrities showed up in a much less douchey way. It was they would come in and they would really congratulate the guys on the success that they had, if they had any at that point, rather than like I felt like in Entourage it was always like, oh yeah, you're here and I'm here because we're both good looking.
Yeah. Let's smoke some weed together and bang some chicks.
Yeah. So this was always like the fashion. It made it seem like the fashion industry was much more of a grind than acting in Hollywood was.
Yeah.
Which I'm not trying to disparage acting in Hollywood. I know it's
shit.
hard for a lot of people, but Entourage didn't make it look hard for anyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And it was a comedy? Some of the people you named made it seem like it was a comedy.
It was a dramedy. It probably leaned more to the comedy side. Luis Guzman and Kid Cudi were both very funny in it. But like it kind of followed that same the same flow as Entourage, where the guys would get up a little and then they'd get down on their luck, and then they'd get back up and then they'd get down on their luck again. As much as you can in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know why it got canceled?
just that HBO said it didn't have enough buzz. Mark Wahlberg was the executive producer on it, just like
Yeah.
Entourage. He was hoping it would get picked up by another network, but it never did. It got canceled at the same time as Hung and Bored to Death.
Oh.
Which Bored to Death was another one of my alternates for this list, because I really like that show.
I wonder if it was around the same time that like Game of Thrones started, because I know like once Game of Thrones started, HBO was cutting things left and right.
It got canceled in 2011, and Game of Thrones started in 2011, so it would have been probably the second season of How to Make It in America probably ran the same time as the first season of Game of Thrones, so they probably said, we are going to jump on the Thrones bandwagon instead.
Yeah.
The other thing I think... Go ahead.
I was going to say, we really find that any HBO show we do, like, more often than not, the excuse that it got canceled was because it wasn't Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the same thing. Boardwalk Empire is another one that got axed because of that, probably. The other thing I thought was it was still competing with Entourage, and Entourage kind of had its following already. So
Yeah.
it was kind of the same show, even though it was doing something completely different. It was, like, if you're watching Entourage and you're watching that back-to-back, you're kind of seeing the same thing over and over.
Yeah, that's fair. Whereas HBO loves to have, like, unique television shows.
Right.
It's interesting.
And what do you think would have happened if it continued?
Yes, we're hosting now. We're the hosts of this podcast.
That's good. I need somebody to fire the questions at me so I'm not just sitting here talking to myself for 10 minutes at a time. I think it kind of just would have kept with the ups and downs. So they ended season 2. They had just sold like a jeans brand to like a bigger distributor or something, and they met with Pharrell, and so everything was looking up for them. So I think somehow they would have, season 3 would have taken them back down in some way, and it just kind of would have kept going up and down in the peaks and valleys. But they had a lot of different threads. Like Luis Guzman's character, he was an ex-convict, and he was trying to make it straight with an energy drink brand, which was really weird and cool. And then Lake Bell was, she was like the ex-girlfriend of the main character, but they still hung out kind of thing. And she was like an interior designer of some sort, and she was rising the ranks through that. And Kid Cudi was dealing pot and rising the ranks through that. So they had a lot of different interesting people that could go in different ways.
Yeah, that's cool. I wonder if they would almost do like the what was that show with that Indian guy that we hate now because
A Master of None?
Yeah, Master of None.
Oh, I love Master of None.
Where they like branch out into like a different country in season 2.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
I think that was actually part of it. Like at the end of season 2, they were heading to France or somewhere else to go to a big fashion show or something like that. So it was kind of going that direction. And I liked it because it had all the different characters going against the peaks and valleys of their careers, unlike Entourage, where like if Vince was at a peak, everybody on the show was at a peak, and if Vince was in a valley, everybody on the show was in a valley. So this had all 5 of the different supporting characters kind of going in different ways at all times.
That's cool. Cool.
Yep. I think it's your turn, Kelly.
Have you ever heard of Clone High?
Nope.
What?
Jesus.
Must be Canadian.
Because he's American. Yeah, exactly. It is Canadian.
Well, okay, so Clone High is more or less all of the comedians from MTV at around like 2007 or something like that, whenever, I should probably know when Clone High came out. Anyways, it was all the comedians of MTV making a cartoon about famous people from history being cloned, and then all of them in high school.
So like Gandhi, JFK.
Yeah, Gandhi,
that
JFK.
Sounds awesome.
Cleopatra.
Abe
Lincoln.
Yeah, all of those people.
I gotta write that down because I'm gonna go check that out.
It's really good, and it's only a season, 2002. Okay, so it's around that time.
Can I find it anywhere legally?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I think all of YouTube has it.
There we go.
And you can listen to our episode on Good Enough to Air about it.
Yeah.
There
Also, I meant Mad TV. All the comedians from Mad TV working with MTV.
There you go.
Because all of the soundtrack of Clone High is like 2002, sort of like
Trash.
Yeah, trash. I was gonna say.
I remember the music from 2002.
Yeah. So if you just remember what the 2002 sounded like, it's basically that. But I really liked it because it was in America, but then when it canceled, it went into syndication almost exclusively in Canada. So Teletoon, I don't know if you know what Teletoon is in the States.
Nope.
It's our cartoon network. It's basically our cartoon network.
For adults.
Yeah, and so when it was in syndication, I was growing up at the same time and I was watching it. And it's just like a really fast-paced comedy with like recurring gags and interesting characters. Like, they're all obviously sex fiends because it's high school and everyone just wants to get laid. But they have really like heartfelt relationships between some of the characters. Like, Cleopatra is in love with Abe Lincoln, but she's too nervous to. Yeah, of course. They're meant for each other. But she's too like nervous to talk about him, or talk about it to him. And Abe is in love with, Joan of Arc, sorry. Joan is in love with Abe. And Cleo.
That's not as obvious. Should be Cleopatra.
But Abe is in love with Cleo.
So there's a great love triangle happening.
Whew.
And, everything's like about their relationship and stuff like that. And Gandhi's like the comic relief who's got ADD. But the main plot of the story is that the clones are being raised and groomed to become like the new leaders of the world underneath this shady board of what is their actual name? It's the secret board of shady figures, and basically they want to have all of these clones run the country for them, and their principal, Mr. Scudworth, wants to raise them to run a historical themed theme park. It's kind of weird. And he's got a robot.
No, this sounds awesome. I'm in on it. You can stop selling me at any point.
Oh yeah, it's real good. And so my favorite thing about this show, other than the fact that it's great and has Jack Black in an episode trying to trick the kids into smoking raisins, is that apparently the reason it was canceled, and this is going based on a very unreliable
Wait. Hey, Kelly, why do you think it was canceled?
Sorry, yeah.
We gotta go through the process.
Going into the next phase. Apparently the reason it was canceled, according to very reliable sources on Reddit and other reputable news platforms, is because in India, somebody found out about the Gandhi character being like a caricature and idiot, that they hosted a hunger strike that then convinced the network producers to cancel Clone High because they didn't want to have to deal with the backlash.
Did people die?
I have no idea.
Couldn't they just cut the Gandhi character?
No,
Gandhi moved to a new high school. Sorry, guys.
He's so integral to the plot.
He doesn't actually, though. It's true. He's more of a side character.
But he's Abe's best friend.
Yeah, but Abe could have got a new best friend.
Find a new friend.
Yeah.
What other historical figure could possibly fill Gandhi's shoes?
Hitler.
Oh,
Attila the Hun.
No, Attila the Hun is already in there.
He is.
He's like almost like a botched clone job, I think. There's also in case you didn't want to watch it for some reason, their teacher is the first cloned sheep.
Dorothy.
Called Mr. Sheepman.
Dolly. Dolly was the name of the clone sheep.
I think in lore, he's Mr. Sheepman.
Okay.
So I'm gonna believe the historical
obviously
facts of Clone High. Also, funnily enough, Mike, our other host, hated this show because of how historically inaccurate it was.
I think that's the point of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we said.
It's for funny. It's to be funny.
Okay.
But we did an entire season where we watched the second episode. So like usually in our show or in our podcast, we'll watch just the pilot episode of a TV show and then judge it based on that. And then at the end of a season, we'll watch one TV show the entire way through and then judge the series as a whole. But we did an entire season of our podcast where we watched the second episode, and on upon second viewing of Clone High, he kind of liked it a little bit more. Still not great, but we're chipping away at him slowly. He doesn't like cartoons.
Just leave it on in the background while you're doing your podcast and put it on mute, and he'll get really interested on what's going on over there.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like, oh, is that Abe?
Yeah.
Is that Abe over there? What's Abe doing? Do you want to ask me the third question? I'll let you get that in there.
Oh, yeah. Where do you think it would have gone had it continued?
So without spoiling, because I now want you to watch it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I think that the clones would have started working together with their principal and assisting him in his
endeavors,
his late season endeavors. And there would have been some sort of coup, one might say, and also on the love triangle, because the season doesn't really end on a satisfying note at all.
Yeah.
That also is like a terrible realization that we've had making this podcast, is that we're going to continuously be disappointed at
You have all these cliffhangers.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're like, man, I can't wait until it keeps going, and then, it doesn't.
It doesn't go.
Never.
Yeah.
So that's Clone High, and I wish that shit was still on the air.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that. So my next one.
What is your other show? Hey, someone has to ask you the question.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know whose podcast this is.
It's everyone's.
Anymore.
Belongs to the listeners.
So what is your next television show?
Freaks and Geeks.
Of course, yes.
Good thing that we didn't pick it.
Yeah, I was worried about some crossover with this one, because I think it's on literally everybody's list. The main cast is Linda Cardellini, John Francis Daly, who went on to great things in the movie Waiting, to be Mitch. And then James Franco, Seth Rogen, Jason Segel, Busy Phillips. Everybody was just firing on all cylinders in Freaks and Geeks. And Apatow caught everybody. I don't know how he picked these people out, because none of them really had careers before this.
And everyone ended up having careers afterwards.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how great they've all been. So it follows a gifted high schooler, Lindsay, who befriends a gang of slackers, and her younger brother Sam and his geek friends as they navigate high school. I liked the cast mostly, like we've already talked about, and it was good to see. Like, high school shows usually show either like a popular kid or just a kid who figures it out by the end. Yeah. And you could tell in Freaks and Geeks that it was more about the kids who get lost in the shuffle in high school. And and that's important, because most people in high school are those kids.
So much like your experience with Firefly, I have not actually seen Freaks and Geeks.
And neither have I.
Oh my goodness.
It's been on our list as like our next milestone episode, where like it is such a huge show that only lasted for a short time that like we have to do something special for it. So we've just not watched it yet.
You've got to watch the whole thing. I mean, for your show, you can just do the first episode, but like you'll enjoy the entire show.
Oh, I'm sure we will. Like we did, I think like 4 episodes of Firefly, just because of how like culturally significant it was. So I'm sure Freaks and Geeks will get a similar treatment.
And why did it get canceled without revealing too much? Because I don't want any spoilers.
Yeah.
So apparently, I didn't watch it on its original run in 99, 2000. I watched it probably 5 years ago. It had an erratic schedule. It kept getting moved around in NBC's lineup. And apparently it was going up against Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which at the time was not a good idea, I guess.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason I could find in researching it was there was a conflicting vision from the network and the creators. The network didn't understand. It said the network head didn't understand life as an ordinary teenager. He wanted. he went to private schools and straight to Yale, and then got a nice studio job. And like what Apatow was trying to do was tell the story of ordinary kids. And the network kept wanting everything to be cool with the show, and he wanted the characters to get wins at the end of every episode, and the creators of the show just didn't see it that way, because really in high school nobody wins anything.
No, you just lose all the way down until about your 30s.
Yeah, yeah. Really, it was just before its time. If it came out on Netflix today, I think it would be huge.
Yeah.
Did it only get one season?
Yeah, it had one season. I think it was a short season.
We actually used to have a segment at the end of our podcast about, like, if we think it could last, like, if it could work in modern day. And, like, 90% of the time we're like, yeah, just throw it on Netflix. People would love that shit nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about Netflix is, like, you can kind of just throw things out there, and if people like them, they stick, and if they don't, they're still there for the few people that do like them.
Yeah, exactly. And were they, like, in the middle of their high school, or were they, like, gonna graduate? Like, how would it continue?
So the sister, she was a senior, and her friends were seniors. So I kind of saw them as, and Judd Apatow has a whole story of, or not Judd Apatow, Paul Feig, who was the director on Bridesmaids.
Yeah.
He was also a part of the creators of the show. He's come out and said where he thought it was going, and I don't really like what his thoughts were. He said, I have it here, that Lindsay, the main character, would become a human rights lawyer after years of following the Grateful Dead. Because it takes place in the early 80s, I want to say.
Okay.
Sam, who's the younger brother, he was a freshman at the beginning of the show. He would have joined drama club. His best friend would have joined the school choir as his parents are going through a divorce, and his other best friend would have joined the basketball team and kind of tried to cut the other two geeks out of his life. Daniel would end up in jail. Kim would become pregnant after following the Grateful Dead, and Nick would be pressured to join the army. So that all seemed really depressing to me.
Yeah. Accurate, but also kind of depressing.
I kind of thought it would have been cool to see the older set of characters, because they were all different types of people. Like 2 or 3 of them probably would have went to college, and then 2 or 3 would have ended up just at home, like finding some dead-end job. So it would have been kind of cool of how the 6 of them would have stuck together, while 3 of them are, at whatever shoehorned in community college they go to, and the other 3 are trying to work real jobs and make money. I thought that kind of would have been interesting to see that stuff go. And then
it was kind of like the later years of Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had to shove them into college in the same town so they didn't have to do anything different.
Yeah, exactly. We're all still friends, so let's keep the same actors.
And then they made a show. This is another one that Judd Apatow made right after, and it's kind of a spiritual successor. It's called Undeclared, and that was a half-hour comedy. And that only did one season as well. And it was pretty good, but it didn't capture really the same je ne sais quoi as Freaks and Geeks did. There's some French for you.
Good job. I really like that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was pronounced perfectly, too. So
yeah, perfect fluent accent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's probably best
French
for people's careers.
Yeah, it is. What, Kelly?
I was going to say, it's probably best for those people's careers that it didn't keep going, because, like we said, literally everybody went on to be hella famous and make billions of dollars.
Yeah.
It would have sucked to see James Franco stuck in a network drama for 10 years as in his prime.
He never would have made it as a cameo in Alien Covenant.
There we go.
That would have been a shame.
That huge role he had.
Yeah. I mean, Kelly and I just watched it last night, so
that's why
it's fresh in our mind.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that movie.
I liked it too.
Okay, I don't know if I should say this here, but we have this ongoing argument with like every creative endeavor that I'm on right now, is that I genuinely do not like the movie Aliens, and I like every other Alien movie in the franchise better than it.
Wow.
How do you feel about Aliens?
I like Aliens. I like the first one the best.
But specifically the second one with the Marines and stuff.
Right. Which most people think is the best. I like it.
See?
But I like them pretty much in the order they came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Other than, I would put like Prometheus third, or Prometheus and Alien Covenant, I'd put those third and fourth, and then Aliens 3, Resurrection, Alien vs. Predator.
That's fair.
Yeah, I feel the same as you, I think.
Yeah, I don't know why. I've had hours of discussion about Aliens with all of my like intricate details about why I don't like it, and in the end, everyone just says that I'm an idiot, and I should probably watch it again.
Well, last week on a podcast about something, we did a podcast about movie franchises that just won't die.
Oh, dang.
Ooh.
So
Did you do Alien?
we talked about Aliens, yeah, because I love
Yeah.
Aliens, and I love the like how they keep building on the world and the lore of Aliens, and like now they're digging into where they came from and why, and I like that.
Yeah. That was my main selling point of watching Alien Covenant. I thought it was like I love the first half because it was like a real horror film of like the monster and all that stuff and like the unknown. And then it takes the turn of having, I forget the synthetic's name, David, I think. Yeah, so David being there and like explaining everything about how he created the alien, which was like kind of weird. And then once it got to like his experimentations with stuff and you see where it's going, I was like, yeah, I want to know how the first xenomorph was formed. Thank you.
Yep, I'm the same way. Like I'll keep watching it as long as they don't make any more Alien vs. Predator ones. I'll probably watch everything in the Alien series.
I love Predator so much.
I like Predator too. I don't like it when they come together.
That's fair. All right, should I move on to the last on our side?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk for Mike because he's not here. We can give our opinions.
Oh, I messaged Mike like 5 minutes before we started recording because I forgot, and I was like, "What do you think about your show?" And so I'm gonna read his thing. So the show is Almost Human.
Okay.
Which features the latest Dread. I don't know if you've seen the latest Dread.
No.
Oh, come on.
I haven't.
Such a good movie. Ugh.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
Scenes. Anyway.
Yeah, I've seen Dread.
All
There
right.
you go. He has. I haven't.
So it's got never mind. I was gonna make very explicit sexual comments about Karl Urban because he's like my biggest male actor crush. But it's got Karl Urban in it.
Fair enough.
Okay, great.
As a detective in the future who is assigned a android partner.
And he's
of course,
judge, jury, and executioner as he finds criminals.
Exactly what you just said. No, he's of course in all of these like android-human relationships, he's like anti-android, and it's got Michael Ealy as Dorian the android,
Yep.
and I don't think I've ever seen him in anything else.
He's in like early Kevin Hart movies a lot. And he's in, I can't remember the name of it. They did a remake of a Rob Lowe movie a couple years ago that he's the lead in. I can't think of which one it was though.
So I've never seen him in anything other than Almost Human, and he does a great job. And him and Karl Urban have amazing chemistry, as I imagine Karl Urban and I would also have amazing chemistry.
Karl Urban, if you're listening, give Kelly a call.
Oh, we've literally tried to contact him because
All right.
we did a retrospective of this Almost Human where we watched every episode, and in the end I was like, I need to get Karl Urban on our podcast,
So
or at least just
send
talk
a
to him.
restraining order to Canada. They'll find him. There's not that many people there. They'll find him.
Just all of Canada, yeah.
Yeah, just look for Kelly and you'll find him. So Mike chose this one. Him and I have like an affinity for this show, but we asked him here 3 questions, and the first one of like what he likes about it, he said, I like the character dynamics, music, storytelling, and the refreshing atmosphere in a similar way to New Amsterdam, which is another show that we watched that you should also watch because it's great.
Procedural crime drama.
It's got Jamie Lannister in it.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so in a similar way to New Amsterdam, it showed that you can have a good long-term story with engaging short-term action. So it's like a procedural crime drama, so every episode has like a different crime that they're trying to solve, but in a better way, those crimes sort of lead into their relationship. So every crime has like a new twist on their relationship that they have to deal with. And there's kind of like a cool overarching story about like the use of androids in crime and stuff like that. It's really cool. And most of it's filmed in Vancouver, so it was weird for us to watch because it just looked like future Vancouver.
Right.
And why did it get canceled?
It got canceled because it needed CSI numbers
Oh.
in a time where almost nothing other than CSI could get that.
Yeah.
Also, it cost so much money to make.
That's where the 22 episodes is a detriment too, because like you have this good idea, and if you told it in 10 episodes, you'd get 3 seasons, but by doing it in 22 episodes, you're stuck at the end of season 1 with, now where does the story go? And we spent all our money.
It was just unreasonable with that budget to expect them to get those numbers in season 1. It was just like a terrible all the way around to try to get it to work. I will say, though, that the amount of content that exists for Almost Human is satisfying and definitely worth watching, even if it like leaves you a little bummed that there's not more of it afterwards.
That was one that I was waiting to see if it went more than 1 season. Like, because that's what I'll do now is I'll, like, if something looks interesting, I'll go, okay, I'll wait till, like, the middle of season 2 and then start picking it up because I don't like to get into shows that are going to get canceled after the first season. So that was one that I was kind of waiting on to see what happened, and nothing happened, so I didn't ever go to it.
It's actually only 13 episodes as well, because I think they were either a mid-season replacement or off-season, maybe? But they didn't get the full 22 episode treatment, which is probably for the best. There doesn't there doesn't feel like there's any bottle episodes in Almost Human, which is cool. And then for someone's got to ask me.
Me. What do you think would have happened if it continued?
So Mike says that the story would have explored the wall. Oh, right. So part of the plot is that there's a wall surrounding the city, and there's shit on the other side. Definitely not topical.
No,
in
not
any way, shape, or form.
Oh.
They would have explored the wall and what's on the other side while developing the characters further, particularly Kenix's father, which is the main character, and his girlfriend that tried to kill him. Spoilers, which I think is happens in the first episode. And I'd love to learn more about Dorian and what his life is like as an android. Yeah.
It's very intriguing because as the late addition to the podcast Good Enough to Air, you guys did that before my time.
Yeah.
And you frequently bring it up in other episodes, and I just haven't gotten the chance to see it.
It's so very good.
And that's all I hear is how great it is. So I'm glad that I got a bit of insight without researching it on my own. Maybe I'll watch it now.
Like at this point, anytime we watch a procedural drama procedural crime drama on the podcast, Mike will inevitably compare it to Almost Human.
And compare it negatively, like Almost Human's better every time.
Yeah, it's like Almost Human is the highest bar for procedural crime drama, and then everything else has to try to jump over it, and nothing has yet.
I'm okay
Even
with
if it's
that.
got Jamie Lannister in it.
Yeah, that's another one. I've got 2 new on my list now to check out once I'm done watching season 2 of Legion.
Nice.
All right, give us your last one.
My last one was Party Down. No?
Party Down. I don't think I've seen it.
You're bringing some heat.
Yeah.
2009, 2010. Stars, half-hour comedy. It had Adam Scott, Lizzie Kaplan, Jane Lynch, Megan Mullally, Ken Marino, and Martin Starr.
Right, yeah. This is on our list. We just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, this is another one that you'll want to just keep watching. It follows a group of caterers in LA as they all hope to make it in Hollywood. So they're all like actors or comedians, or one of them's like a stage mom for like her 13-year-old. She thinks she's going to make it big at some point. One guy just wants to open, they call it Super Crackers, but it's just like a soup and sandwich restaurant. Like that's his biggest dream, is he just wants to open this restaurant. One's a sci-fi writer, so it's really interesting that they all kind of are trying to go their own way. It's got a great cast. It's got great side characters because each episode they go to a different party. So whoever's hosting the party is always usually somebody interesting.
That's cool.
Some of the hosts have been J.K. Simmons, Rob Corddry, Kristen Bell made a few appearances, Ken Jeong, Kevin
I love
Hart.
Kristen Bell.
I love Ken Jeong.
There we go. McLovin made a couple appearances.
Nice.
Yeah.
So a lot of good side characters coming in. The parties are always interesting to see. it was always more about the event that they went to than the actual catering company. Like, you didn't care about the catering company, you cared about the caterers and where they were that week. And then it was kind of the same thing I said with How to Make It in America, is everybody was doing their own thing. So, like, one guy would be getting close to an acting job while the comedian was just bombing on stage every night. And so, like, each character would have their own ups and downs. Like, the guy finally got his restaurant, but then 3 episodes later, it tanked, basically. Mm-hmm. So it was always, they got to these highs, and they left the catering company, and then they came back to the catering company because something happened. So to jump ahead to the final question of where I think it was going, I think it kind of would have just rotated between each character getting their break and failing at their break and coming back to the catering company.
Yeah, so it seems like it never got stale because there was always, like, some sort of conflict and success going on.
Yeah, and every time somebody would leave, like, if somebody would leave for an episode or two, they would fill in the position on the catering team, so there would always be kind of like a guest star every once in a while cool. on the catering team.
Mm.
It was a good show.
Nice.
Why did it get canceled?
Apparently, I wrote in my notes, I'm the only person that watched any of the shows on my list. Nobody else watched any of these, so they all had terrible ratings. This is another one that I think was before its time. It would do good on Netflix now. Adam Scott moved on to Parks and Rec. Jane Lynch moved on to Glee, or was doing Glee simultaneously and decided Glee was paying her more. Lizzie Kaplan had a job on a pilot that she did and then told them she didn't want to do that show because she was waiting to see if season 3 of Party Down happened while everybody else was moving on and doing their own things.
Oh, that sucks.
But yeah, it just, they just kept waiting on it to see if they got the response, and, you know, the very few viewers gave it really good response, but there weren't enough viewers to gain momentum. And in 2010, you know, Twitter campaigns weren't as big as they are now.
Yeah. That's too bad.
The producers are like, well, Calvin likes it, but no one else is watching.
Calvin and his friend Tony like it, and that's it. Nobody else in the world.
It's the K&T rating. Are they watching?
They didn't listen to us on Twitter back then.
No, that's a shame.
And I already said what would happen if it continued. Everybody would have just kind of kept going up and down. So yeah, I think that would have gone that way. Cool.
Now we've got 3 more shows to watch because I have heard of one of them, and
all right,
or no, 1.5 would say, and not seen any of them.
Yeah.
There you go. Cool. Everybody's got new shows. Listeners, you've got new shows as well. Did you have any honorable mentions?
You're welcome. I mean, we mentioned Firefly, but I mean, that's like so culturally significant that you can't even talk about it anymore just because, like, nothing is left to be said about it.
Yeah.
Right. If you've seen it, if you've seen it, you love it, and if you haven't, you're probably not going to.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
Unless you post a podcast about canceled TV shows.
Yeah.
Then you'll need to.
I would say Bunheads is a really good show.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a dramedy with Sutton Foster. She's a ballerina. She teaches little kids.
It's so weird that show I never heard about, and then we watched it for the podcast, and then Brooklyn Nine-Nine made a joke about Bunheads being canceled, and I was like, wow, apparently it existed in other people's eyes.
Or the writers of Brooklyn Nine-Nine are listening to your show. That's got to be it.
Gotta be that. We're that large. Everyone listens to us.
So for any more honorable mentions, go to Good Enough to Air, and they've got a whole slew of them that they'll give you an hour's worth of talking on each one.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, Mike would be remiss if I didn't mention Dead Like Me, even though I hate that show.
Yeah, I never got into that one.
I didn't like it either.
Or Pushing Daisies, which I really like as well, is a good one to watch.
What shows do you guys think should have quit while they were ahead?
Okay, I gotta feel this one. I feel like Kelly has the same answer.
We all 3 of us have the same answer, so don't worry about that one.
So it's Grey's Anatomy, which actually is my favorite show up until the plane crash arc of season 9.
And then literally the show crashes, and all interest in the show dies.
Yeah.
I've never had interest in Grey's Anatomy. My wife watches it still, every week, and I can't believe, like, every time a new season starts, I'm like, I can't believe that show's still on. It feels like it's been on for 30 years.
It basically has. I haven't seen the most recent seasons. I saw up until season 13, but they're on season 15 now.
Jesus Christ.
But I just feel like there's too many new characters that are being introduced too quickly that you don't have a chance to, like, have any emotional connection to them and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I just lost interest.
Like, growing up, I was your standard white boy growing up in Canada, where I was like, oh, Grey's Anatomy is for chicks, and I don't want to watch it because it's just a bunch of girls doing medical stuff and complaining about their boys. And then
American white guys have the same thoughts on it.
I don't know about them American boys, so I couldn't speak for them. Yeah. And then, like, when I went to post-secondary, I was living with my dad for a bit, and he was watching Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, what? And so I, like, watched a couple episodes. I'm like, Jesus, this show gets rough. Like, the medicine is actually, like, really well done. The drama is, like, there, but also pretty real.
When you base it on an anatomy textbook, I mean, that's your only source material is actual anatomy.
Like, the episode that I watched with my dad was the one where Karev ends up working for Peds and hugs his baby with his shirt off. That's all I remembered. But, like, that episode was really, really good. And then I just never watched it. And then I met Char, and she's like, she watches Gunman episode and the plane crash episode. I'm like, what the fuck is this show? It's so hard. That's the hardest fucking show I've ever seen. And I used to watch ER, and, like, that was rough. And I'm like, what the hell is going on in this show? And she's like, you need to watch this show. And I'm like, okay. And so we, like, binge watched for, like, 2 months straight. And then
up until it got bad.
Yeah, and then it started getting bad, and then it would go, like, 2 weeks at a time before we watched the next episode. And I was like, this is so boring.
I think I saw most of the plane crash episode, like, sitting just doing something on my tablet or whatever next to my wife while she was watching it. So I at least know what you're talking about when you talk about that. But any other episode, I'm completely out on.
Yeah, so we all agree, because Mike agrees as well, that he stopped watching after the plane crash episode, that show just takes a nosedive and not worth watching anymore and should have died years ago. And, like, Shonda Rhimes is doing other things that are, like, really good.
Yeah.
Like, How to Get Away with Murder is amazing. Does she do Scandals?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking great. Great show. So I don't know why she's clinging on to the vestiges.
Because people still watch.
Because it makes money.
Watch other things.
Yeah.
Dude, put something else there. You can let things die, people.
Yes. So that brings me to my point of Big Bang Theory is one of mine that needed to die 4 seasons ago, probably, if not before that. Do you guys watch it?
Yeah. I watched, like, the first 4 seasons, maybe.
I watched it when it was, like, on already. Like, there was nothing else to see.
Yeah.
Type thing. Yeah.
That's about the way to watch it. It's just a mess. Like, they just run around each other in circles, and nobody is actually, like, there's no arc anymore. Everybody's just doing things, and not in a funny or interesting way.
Everyone's, like, dating or not dating or becoming normal human beings, which
wasn't the point of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst part about that. Pardon, go ahead.
I was gonna say, when they become normal, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. The worst part is my mom watches that show, and she's like, oh my god, it reminds me of you and your friends, and then I just want to kill myself.
Are you guys theoretical physicists?
No.
And we're not sociopathic catchphrase monsters. That's right. That's what the characters of Big Bang Theory are.
Pretty much. Yeah.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. That show needs to die.
I agree also.
So the other one I had is going to be controversial, maybe not by you guys, but by our listeners it probably will be, and that's Game of Thrones. And I think once they pass the books, they just stop trying, it feels like, and I hate it with every fiber of my being right now.
That's the thing, I haven't seen the latest season.
Is 7 the one where they pass the books, or is it 6?
It's the fact that they're, like, fast traveling everywhere, and then they ended up passing it.
Season 4 is really the end of the books for the most part. There's a couple things in season 5 that relate back to the books, but for the most part, they're kind of trying to do their own thing to get away from the books. And then 6 is completely beyond the books, and 7 is as well. And 7 was better than 6, but not good enough to... I'll watch it because I want to see how it ends, and if they never finish the books, I want some ending to exist.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
I actually love it. I love Game of Thrones. I would follow it. I mean, so far, I only have good things associated with it. It's always thrilling for me. I don't get bored watching it. And I always want to see the next episode. But I agree that I would want an ending rather than just get canceled.
Well, they apparently just finished filming, like, for goodsies.
Yep.
So it's coming to an end soon.
Oh, boy.
Imagine when that big cold comes, the big one.
Winter is coming.
Yeah.
Like, they should have learned from anime directors because, like, all of the worst episodes of any anime are the ones where they're like, well, the manga hasn't caught up with us yet. Let's just make shit up.
Filler episode.
Let's see if we can make it up as good as they can when they've been doing it their entire life. Like, it's the thing they've been working on their whole life.
I wonder what Naruto and his friends would do if they went to the beach for an episode. It's like,
stop it.
Please
stop.
You were in the middle of an arc and you went to a beach episode. You idiots.
You saw the same thing with Harry Potter too, is they were producing the movies faster than the books, so they didn't know where the books were going, so they just kind of tried to think of the shit they thought was going to be important, and then it turned out it wasn't, so they're like, oh wow, we have to explain Horcruxes now in 2 hours, and so we need a whole nother movie.
Yeah, exactly. Snape was the good guy all along, but you literally framed him as just the evilest person for the first four seasons. Yeah,
that was kind of in the book too, though. He was the villain in the books.
Yeah, but
you learn.
There's hints. Yeah, there's hints at he's protecting Harry, even though he hates Harry. In the movies, there's no hints.
The movie, when he learns to like block out his mind, in the books, it was like obvious that Snape cared about him doing this. And then in the movie, it's like, well, Snape's just fucking attacking this boy with his mind powers.
That's fair.
And now transitioning to a podcast about Harry Potter.
Yeah, welcome to a podcast about Harry Potter. We could do that as well. We just recently.
I would love to do that.
All right. We'll be back for a podcast about Harry Potter at some point. Actually, we probably won't do that broad, but I do have Harry Potter topics that I want to talk about. They're much more focused, though.
Cool.
How tall is Dobby?
Yes. Oh, when they say eyes like tennis balls, real tennis balls?
Yeah, compared them. An entire hour's worth of dissecting Dobby.
We could probably pull that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely.
He's my favorite character.
Tune in down the road for a podcast about Dobby.
Yeah, but so let's wrap this up.
Yes.
We have one more question, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. This was a thought I had as I was typing the outline and notes for this episode was, what if shows had, like, these shows that have one season, but, like, they don't know where to go after the first season, so they have this great idea, it's a great show, but they have nowhere to go. I used the examples of True Detective, Big Little Lies, even, like, something like Freaks and Geeks. Like, I would rather see, like, a limited release in theaters where I can just show up to a theater every week and see the next episode. And they used to do that when movie theaters first were a thing, and they had these serialized shows that you could go each week and see the next episode. And, you know, you could sell the tickets for less than a regular movie ticket, but still something. And I just thought that would be a really cool thing to do with a limited run show, rather than, oh, it did good, now we have to think of what to do for season 2, even though we're out of ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually weird that you asked this question, because in Vancouver we have this, like, heritage theater called the Rio. I don't know if you've seen it pop up in your news feeds at all.
Nope, never.
It's actually, I guess I'll help pimp it for a
bit. Do a little advertisement.
So it's actually, like, in trouble right now, where it's trying to stay open because Vancouver is a hellscape of realtor and construction, so they're trying to tear it down to build condos. And, like, a bunch of actors who are Canadian-based, like Ryan Reynolds and
Seth Rogen.
And Kevin Smith are trying to protect it. So it's like hashtag Save the Rio or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's it. You
If any of your viewers have money, you should all go and
Save the Rio.
Yeah,
Save the Rio.
So that Kelly
Search the
might keep
hashtag
going
on
to
Twitter.
this really awesome
Yeah.
theater.
I'm going to move to Vancouver just so I can save the Rio with you.
Yeah, do that.
I don't know how my family feels about it, but they'll be on board eventually.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
That's what I said when I left. I was like, my parents are going to be sad. I'll get over it.
Well, I meant more my family, my wife and kids. They might be a little more upset.
I'll get over it.
But the cool thing is that they actually did recently do Freaks and Geeks in the theater.
Oh, that was so cool.
And occasionally they'll do like Firefly and stuff like that.
Yeah, they'll binge. Like they'll just have a day of a show, and you can either buy a day pass or you can just pop in for a few episodes. They have my favorite part about that theater is, besides the whole retro aspect, because it's been there for so long, but also you get to get some liquor, you get some popcorn. Mm-hmm.
That's the way to go, really.
They also do the
Seriously, I can't watch shows without it.
They also do the Rocky Horror thing where you can like throw stuff at the
Rocky
screen.
Horror. Yeah, I've done that once. Not for me.
Yeah, it's pretty cool though. Like, I don't know how. I think it only applies for like very pop culture shows like Freaks and Geeks, and like it would be hard to convince them to play something that we've done on the podcast more or less. But it would be a cool idea.
So if we save the Rio, then we can basically we'll just have good enough to air at the Rio every week.
You're talking about our goals and dreams, man.
I have very loose connections at the Rio. Maybe I could do that. Maybe if we had enough viewers, if we had enough listeners, we could probably convince them to. But
they need to make money from us, and we can't make money for ourselves yet. So
that's a bit of a sticking point, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. We're mostly just really bad at promoting, but being at the Rio would be good.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like quid pro quo. That's how that works, right?
Yeah. Then Kevin Smith and Ryan Reynolds will be tweeting about you guys.
There we go.
That's my goal. Carl Urban will stay 500 feet away from me.
But he can see you within those 500 feet, maybe.
That's true. Do they have anything? Like you said, you were in New York. I imagine they must have like heritage theaters and stuff there, don't they?
I was in northern New York, and that was 15 years ago when I left there. I live in Florida now. They have nothing like that here. This is also a hellscape of condos and assisted living facilities.
You could project something onto a giant albino alligator, couldn't you?
Potentially. You gotta wrestle it first, though. That's kind of tough.
That's the tough part, yeah.
You gotta earn it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, you really gotta earn that. No, we don't. There's nothing here. There was, where I lived in New York, there was one. I don't know if it did limited runs of TV shows, but they would do older movies they would show. It was called The Strand. I don't think it's there anymore. Because probably like the Rio there, it didn't make any money.
Yeah, that's fair. Damn this economy we live in. Can't just do shit for free anymore.
Yep.
We can do podcasts for free, though.
Have to be a business.
That's true. We can just talk into a microphone weekly for an hour at a time for free.
Yep, unless somebody wants to pay us.
Pleasure.
That's true.
We'll do it for free until somebody pays us, then we won't anymore.
Then it becomes a job, and then we hate it.
All right, well, thank you guys for stopping by, and it was a good episode. We will we'll have you back for Harry Potter sometime.
Yeah, that'd be really good. Hopefully Mike can come stop by.
We should get you on to do one of those 3 shows that you mentioned.
Yeah!
I would be up for that.
That would be an awesome idea.
You have my
last
email?
Season we were trying to do a guest per episode, but it ended up falling through because it was too hard for us to organize.
Yeah, because I'm bad at talking to people online.
But now we made a new friend, so it's perfect.
I'm good at talking to people online. That's why I can go with my idea. I'm bad at talking to them in person, but I can talk to them online, so now I can do my weekly guests pretty easily.
Yeah.
Show off.
I can email or tweet at somebody all day long and not be affected by it.
I just have to get. I mean, Char's a celebrity now, so it's hard to get her down to record anymore
I'm sorry, I have things to do.
with your career.
I'm sorry.
So that's all we've got for a podcast about short-lived TV shows today. You guys got anything else you want to talk about before we leave?
So I also am on another podcast called Super Hopped Up, which is a bunch of guys sitting in a room drinking beer talking about video games.
Oh,
And sometimes
nice.
me.
Yeah, but we're actually
will have-
branching out and doing YouTube. Oh, go ahead.
A podcast about something will have a video game series coming up too. So you guys got a lot of guest spots coming up here.
Nice.
Nice. We should form a network or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're actually branching out. We branched out like last November into YouTube content as well. So we do a bunch of like Let's Plays and stuff like that, and quick looks at video games and kind of reviews, but more just like hanging out playing video games. We mostly want to make it feel like you're playing games with friends
Yeah.
while watching YouTube videos. So I've been working on that for a while. So if you want to go to youtube.com/superhoppedup and give us a subscribe and a few views, that would be great. We're currently playing through Dark Souls, which is like the bread and butter for gaming channels.
Yeah, that one's going to take you a long time to play through, so you'll have a lot of content.
Yeah, and it's a blind coaching run, so I've got a friend who's never played Dark Souls before playing, and I'm like giving him pointers as he goes. It's really a good time.
Awesome. Check that out. Check out Good Enough to Air. You do weekly, right?
Yep.
Yes.
If you ever want to learn about shows that didn't have more than 2 seasons, Good Enough to Air is where you learn about them.
Yes.
That's it. That's all we got.
All right. Thanks,
There's
guys.
nothing else going on in our lives.
And now it's time for the 2-minute ISO.
For tonight's 2-minute ISO, I want to talk about James Gunn and all the turmoil surrounding him at Disney right now. It might be a little stale by the time this goes up, and everything that's said will have been said, but I want to put my 2 cents on it. And speaking of everything that's been said, like Google News is the absolute worst at giving news. Like I will go on to Google, because I have an Android phone, so Google's my main news source, and I look and, I click on one article one time about one thing, and then the next day I go to look at Google again and I have 15 articles on the same thing that all say the exact same thing. I don't know why I need, 57 articles about James Gunn getting fired. I read the first one. I got what happened. I don't need to read 50 more. And you can either have, you click on something once and you get 50 of them, or you say, I don't want to see this, and then you never see anything about it, which also sucks because I just knocked a lamp on my head, but it also sucks to, never see anything about this thing because I am interested, and if there's new information, I might want to read it, but I don't want to see the exact same article. And like, that's the problem with, blogs these days, and podcasts kind of do the same thing. Is everybody has a take, but it's the same information over and over again, and you kind of get an information overload on he made some tweets, he made however many jokes he made, and there's 200 articles written on it within a day. Like, there's not that much to be said about it, and the articles all say the same thing. But that's my little rant on Google. I love Google, and I have Google phones and use Google for everything, but the news, could use a little fine tuning of once I read an article, I don't need to read 52 more articles on the exact same thing. Anyway, back to James Gunn. I want to start off by saying the jokes he made in the past are wrong, and I don't agree with them. And you shouldn't make jokes like that privately, and you especially shouldn't make them publicly. And I get where he came from, why it was this kind of thing in his mind of, this is what's making him money at this point, so he just kind of continued that brand. But when you make them in a public forum like that, and it's not part of a movie, when you're making a movie, there's all these other hands in it to either check off on it or tell you not to go with it. But on Twitter, it's like you're out there on your own. You said this, and you said it. So don't agree with the tweets. Disney probably did the right thing in firing him just because of what Disney is. I love James Gunn and what he's done with the Guardians of the Galaxy, but Disney made a choice to protect their brand, and they're protecting it. It's it sucks because we're not going to get the final vision of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, but I kind of have this feeling that Disney will figure it out because they have a lot of money, and the way Marvel works is everything's got so many levels of checkoffs and checks and balances anyways that I think they'll get a finished product that is as good, if not, it might be slightly worse, but I think it'll be as good as the first two entries. And I noted not a fan of the second one anyway, so it might be better to have, somebody coming in and giving a fresh spin on it. Taika Waititi's been thrown out there because of what he did with Thor Ragnarok. That might be kind of cool to see. And there's a lot of other young directors who they can bring in and kind of figure out what James Gunn had done. The other thing about Disney, they made their decision. They've got a line. There's a lot of talk right now when I'm recording this about the cast of Guardians 3, saying they want him back, and, a lot of fan polls and fan petitions to bring him back or to just not do the movie at all since he won't be there. And I think Disney can't fold to that pressure, because if you do, you're kind of setting up this. You get into the same trouble as the NFL's gotten in with their domestic violence policies of, we set a policy and now we're not going to follow it. We fired someone, but we'll bring him back because, he was really sorry about it. He still said the things, but he was sorry about it. And if I can suggest one thing to all major corporations, is don't be like the NFL when it comes to dealing with punishments and discipline for your creators. The NFL has been very bad with that, and Disney made a decision. They need to stick to it. They'll bring somebody in. I think they'll figure it out. I don't think at the same time that they need to go into every employee and every director's past and make sure that there's nothing, no skeletons in their closet, because a lot of people do dumb things when they're younger. I've done dumb things when I was younger, and, I don't expect my employer to go look at everything I've ever done and been like, oh, 10 years ago you did this stupid thing, so you're out. But they made their decision to fire him based on his past, and now they have to stick with that. If my employer did come at me and say, you did this thing 10 years ago and it was dumb and you're fired, like, I don't think I could go crawling back asking for my job. And I get it that directors of huge franchises are not the same as me and my job, but you got to stick by your decision. You can't waffle on this. Yeah, people are going to be mad at you, but if you make a movie and it's good, people will forget how mad they were that James Gunn was gone. That's all I've got on James Gunn. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you're on iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe. You can follow us on Twitter at APA something. And always, I'm open to emails, feedback through emails, a podcast about something at gmail.com. And one more thing coming soon is we're going to have a Patreon. Once that's up and running, I'll do an announcement on Twitter, and I'll do an announcement on whichever 2-minute ISO, whatever episode's out at that time. I'll do an announcement of what the different tiers are. I'm looking forward to getting some feedback and doing some cool things on there to provide a little extra for our listeners, and also get me some money to cover the costs that I've already put into this, and, monthly hosting costs, all that kind of stuff. So keep an eye out for that. Follow on Twitter, email us, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, and tell your friends. And you also listen wherever you get podcasts. Stay classy.